Good morning and shalom all. Today we are on Isaiah chapters 32 to 42, titled Who is First and Last? Words taken from one of the chapters. I remind you the purpose of these daily studies is to primarily see what was and is God's requirement for us and others for eternal salvation. Whether those requirements has changed. If so, then God would be a respecter of persons and could be accused of being unfair with a different standard for one group or person than another. So, we are to learn the character of God, what pleases him and what does not. What is it to do right and be righteous with God, as with Hezekiah below in one of the chapters? How did he recover or was healed of his sickness? By money, a pastor, or his good works and praise? Malachi chapter 3 verse 6. For I am Yahweh, I change not. Hebrews 13 verse 8. Yeshua, who some will call Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. And remember, he was from the foundation of the earth, and nothing was made without him. So if he's the same then, yesterday, today, and forever, then neither does his standard always change. Okay, so Isaiah chapter 32 has nothing really significant for salvational purposes. It deals with a king will reign righteousness and complacent women warned of a disaster. So I'm going to go straight on to chapter 33, reading from verse 5. Yahweh is exalted, for he dwelleth on high. He hath filled Zion with judgment and righteousness. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh is his treasure. Verse 13. Hear, ye that are far off, what I have done, and you that are near, acknowledge my might. The sinners in Zion are afraid. Fearfulness hath surprised the hypocrites. Who among us shall dwell with the devouring fire? Who among us shall dwell with the everlasting burning? He that walketh righteously, verse 15, he that walketh righteously and speaketh uprightly, he that despiseth the gain of oppression, that shaketh his hands from holding of bribes, that stoppeth his ears from hearing of blood, and shutteth his eyes from seeing evil, he shall dwell on high. His place of defence shall be the mountains of rocks. Bread shall be given him, his waters shall be sure. Verse 22. For Yahweh is our judge, Yahweh is our lawgiver, Yahweh is our king, he will save us. Chapter 34, titled Judgment of the Nations, reading from verse 1. Come near, you nations, to hear and hearken, you people, let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of Yahweh is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them, he hath delivered them to their slaughter. Verse 16. Seek you out the book of Yahweh, and read. No one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate. For my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. And he hath cast a lot of them, and his hand hath divided it unto them by line. They shall possess it forever, from generation to generation shall they dwell therein. So if these few verses are not making sense to you, obviously you read the whole chapter to get the context. Chapter 35, reading from verse 5, titled The Ransomed Shall Return. Again, we're going through some of the prophecies of God through Isaiah. Verse 5. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap as an hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and streams in the desert. and the parched ground shall become a pool, and the thirsty land spring of water. In the habitation of dragons, where each lay, shall the grass with reeds and rushes. And an highway shall be there, and the way, and it shall be called the way of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for those the wayfaring men, though fools shall not err therein. And the ransomed of Yahweh shall return and come to Zion, and song and everlasting joy upon their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. That was verse 8, talking about the way and who shall be there. Going on to chapter 36, reading from verse 1. This is where Sennacherib invades Judah, and this is going to be the story of Hezekiah. One thing about Hezekiah, the main point to note in today's study. Reading from verse 1.
Chapter 36. Now it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah that Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the defenced cities of Judah and took them. And the king of Assyria sent Rabshakeh from Lachish to Jerusalem unto King Hezekiah with a great army. And he stood by the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field. Then came forth unto him Eliakim, Hilkiah's son, which was over the house, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah, Asaph's son, the recorder. And Rabshakeh said unto them, Say ye now to Hezekiah, Thus saith the great king, the king of Assyria, What confidence is this wherein thou trustest? I say, sayest thou, but they are but vain words. I have counsel and strength for war. Now on whom dost thou trust, that thou rebellest against me? Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed on Egypt, whereon if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce him. So is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all that trust in him. But if thou say to me, We trust in the Lord our God, is it not he, whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah hath taken away, and said to Judah and to Jerusalem, Ye shall worship before this altar? Now therefore give pledges, I pray thee, to my master the king of Assyria, and I will give thee 2,000 horses, if thou be able on thy part to set riders upon them. How then wilt thou turn away the face of one captain of the least of my master's servants, and put thy trust on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? And am I now come up without the Lord against this land to destroy it?
Continuing from verse 14.
Thus saith the king, Let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he shall not be able to deliver you. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, The Lord will surely deliver us. This city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Hearken not to Hezekiah, for thus saith the king of Assyria, Make an agreement with me by a present, and come out to me, and eat ye every one of his vine, and every one of his fig tree, and drink ye every one the waters of his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards. Beware lest Hezekiah persuade you, saying, The Lord will deliver us. Hath any of the gods of the nations delivered his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim? And have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? Who are they among all the gods of these lands that have delivered their land out of my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand?
Continuing from chapter 37.
Chapter 37. And it came to pass, when King Hezekiah heard it, that he rent his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth, and went into the house of the Lord. And he sent Eliakim, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and the elders of the priests covered with sackcloth, unto Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos. And they said unto him, Thus saith Hezekiah, This day is a day of trouble, and of rebuke, and of blasphemy, for the children are come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth. It may be the Lord thy God will hear the words of Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria, his master, hath sent to reproach the living God, and will reprove the words which the Lord thy God hath heard. Wherefore, lift up thy prayer for the remnant that is left. So the servants of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah, and Isaiah said unto them, Thus shall ye say unto your master, Thus saith the Lord, Be not afraid of the words that thou hast heard, wherewith the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Behold, I will send a blast upon him, and he shall hear a rumor, and return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. So Rabshakeh returned, and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah, for he had heard that he was departed from Lachish.
Continuing from verse 14. Hezekiah's prayer for deliverance.
And Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers, and read it. And Hezekiah went up unto the house of the Lord, and spread it before the Lord. And Hezekiah prayed unto the Lord, saying, O Lord of hosts, God of Israel, that dwellest between the cherubims, thou art the God, even thou alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. Thou hast made heaven and earth. Incline thy ear, O Lord, and hear. Open thine eyes, O Lord, and see, and hear all the words of Sennacherib, which hath sent to reproach the living God. Of a truth, Lord, the kings of Assyria have laid waste all the nations and their countries, and have cast their gods into the fire. For they were no gods, but the work of man's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they have destroyed them. Now therefore, O Lord our God, save us from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art the Lord, even thou only. Then Isaiah, the son of Amoz, sent unto Hezekiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, whereas thou hast prayed to me against Sennacherib, king of Assyria, this is the word which the Lord hath spoken concerning him. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, hath despised thee, and laughed thee to scorn. The daughter of Jerusalem hath shaken her head at thee. Whom hast thou reproached and blasphemed? And against whom hast thou exalted thy voice, and lifted up thine eyes on high, even against the Holy One of Israel? By thy servants hast thou reproached the Lord, and hast said, By the multitude of my chariots am I come up to the height of the mountains, to the sides of Lebanon, and I will cut down the tall cedars thereof, and the choice fir trees thereof, and I will enter into the height of his border, and the forest of his Carmel. I have dipped and drunk water, and with the sole of my feet have I dried up all the rivers of the besieged places. Hast thou not heard long ago how I have done it, and of ancient times that I have formed it? Now have I brought it to pass, that thou shouldst be to lay waste defenced cities into ruinous heaps. Therefore their inhabitants were of small power. They were dismayed and confounded. They were as the grass of the field, and as the green herb, as the grass on the housetops, and as corn blasted before it be grown up. But I know thy abode, and thy going out, and thy coming in, and thy rage against me, because thy rage against me and thy tumult is come up into mine ears. Therefore will I put my hook in thy nose, and my bridle in thy lips, and I will turn thee back by the way which thou camest. And this shall be a sign unto thee. Ye shall eat this year such as groweth of itself, and the second year that which springeth of the same. And in the third year sow ye and reap, and plant vineyards, and eat the fruit thereof. And the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah shall again take root downward and bear fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Mount Zion, the zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do this. Therefore thus saith the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, He shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shields, nor cast a bank against it. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return, and shall not come into this city, saith the Lord. For I will defend this city to save it for mine own sake, and for my servant David's sake. Then the angel of the Lord went forth, and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed, and went and returned, and dwelt at Nineveh. And it came to pass, as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch, his god, that Adramelech and Sharezer, his sons, smote him with the sword. And they escaped into the land of Armenia, and Esarhaddon, his son, reigned in his stead.
So, the point of today's story was Hezekiah got his blessings not by paying money, but by praying and reminding God of how he did what was truthful and right in God's eyes, not man's eyes. In other words, he was obedient to his laws. Oh, by the way, the Bible talks that when we pray, we spread our hands to heaven. So I'm not sure where this concept or practice of clasp my hands together comes from. Just a thought. Continue from chapter 38, Hezekiah's sickness and recovery, reading from verse 1.
Chapter 38. In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death, and Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, came unto him and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Set thine house in order, or thou shalt die, and not live. Then Hezekiah turned his face toward the wall, and prayed unto the Lord, and said, Remember now, O Lord, I beseech thee, how I have walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. Then came the word of the Lord to Isaiah, saying, Go and say to Hezekiah, Thus saith the Lord, the God of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will add unto thy days 15 years, and I will deliver thee and this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria, and I will defend this city. And this shall be a sign unto thee from the Lord, that the Lord will do this thing that he hath spoken. Behold, I will bring again the shadow of the degrees, which is gone down in the sundial of Ahaz, 10 degrees backward. So the sun returned 10 degrees, by which degrees it was gone down. The writing of Hezekiah, king of Judah, when he had been sick, and was recovered of his sickness.
And lastly, I jump to verse 22. Hezekiah also had said, What is the sign that I shall go up to the house of Yahweh? Now we have read a few times the scriptures that said what is truth and what pleases God. It was his law and commandments, or keeping his law and commandments. So jumping on to chapter 39, reading from verse 1.
Chapter 39. At that time, Merodach-Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present to Hezekiah, for he had heard that he had been sick, and was recovered.
Jumping forward to verse 6. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store until this day, shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left save Yahweh. That is what Isaiah said to Hezekiah. Read the story to find out why. And for the account of what happened, go to the book of what happened in Isaiah chapters 39, verses 2 to 8. See 2 Kings chapter 20, verses 7 to 12, 2 Chronicles, chapters 32, verse 31, Jeremiah, chapters 20, verse 5, and Daniel, chapters 1, verse 2, 3, and 7, of how and when Judah went into captivity by Babylon, all based on what Hezekiah did or didn't do. Jump into chapter 40, reading from verse 1.
Comfort ye my people, saith your God. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem, and cry unto her, that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned. For she hath received of the Lord's hand double for all her sins. The voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, Prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. The voice said, Cry. And he said, What shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and all the goodliness thereof is as the flower of the field. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, because the Spirit of the Lord bloweth upon it. Surely the people is grass. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, but the word of our God shall stand forever.
Good morning all, happy Sabbath. We continue part 2 of Isaiah chapters 32 to 42, who is first and last, because the recording stopped abruptly yesterday, due to me pressing stop rather than pause. Okay, I ended yesterday with Isaiah chapters 40 verse 1. It had verses like, the voice of him crieth in the wind, so crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight the desert a high way for God, and so on. Every valley shall be exalted, and so on. So it was Isaiah chapters 40 verses 1 to 8. I'm now going to comment on that. Matthew chapters 3 verse 3 says, For this is he, which is speaking of John the Baptist, that was spoken of by the prophet Isaiah, saying, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make his path straight. Luke chapter 3 verse 4, as it is written in the book of the words of Isaiah the prophet, saying, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make his path straight. Every valley shall be filled, and every mountain and hill shall be brought low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough ways shall be made smooth, and all flesh shall see the salvation of God. So again, this is another prophecy of the Old Testament as fulfilled by Yeshua in the New Testament. So fulfilled doesn't mean something was cancelled. It means something that was predicted and it happened. And as I keep saying, you'll never find a prophecy saying that the Messiah or anyone will come to cancel God's laws or take away things. So some examples of how to understand the teachings of the New Testament, we must know their connection to the Old Testament, from where the words or teaching came. Isaiah chapters 40 verses 6 to 8. See also 1 Peter chapters 1 verse 24. For all flesh is as grass, and all the glory of man as the flower of grass. The grass withereth, and the flower thereof falleth away. But the word, which is the commandments of God, of Yahweh, endureth forever. And this is a word which by the gospel is preached unto you. See also James chapters 1 verse 10 and John chapters 12 verse 34. Okay, continuing with Isaiah chapters 40 verse 10. Behold, Yahweh God will come with strong hand, and his arm shall rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him. Match this with Revelation chapters 22 verse 12. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according to his work shall he be. Not according to his faith, or what he believes, if that belief is wrong, according to his works. These are criteria given in Revelations. Isaiah chapter 40 verse 11. He shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather the lambs with his arm, and carry them in his bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with the young. See John chapters 10 verse 11, Hebrews 13:20, 1 Peter 2:25 and 5:4, and Revelation 7:17. So, with insight or discernment, someone say, we know it's talking about the Messiah, what he would do. Chapters 40 verse 13. Who have directed the Spirit of Yahweh, or being his counselor. Sorry, it's a question. Who have directed the Spirit of Yahweh, or being his counselor, have taught him. See Romans chapters 11 verse 34 and 1 Corinthians chapters 2 verse 16. This is how you match up the Old Testament, the New Testament with the Old Testament. Isaiah chapters 40:28. Hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, Yahweh, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might. He increaseth strength. Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon Yahweh shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not weary, and they shall walk and not faith. So this is where our faith comes in. It gives us the strength and stops us being weary when troubles would otherwise drown us. Isaiah chapter 41, first and last, verse 4. Who have wrought and done it, calling the generations from the beginning? I, Yahweh, the first, and with the last, I am He. So, who is being spoken of? Who are the first and the last? The same person or two different persons? Contradicted. Will they be people, if there are two different people, will they be contradicting each other, or of the same mind and heart, teachings and expectations? And will those expectations be the same then, now, and forever? Isaiah chapter 44, verse 6. Thus saith Yahweh, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, I am the first, and I am the last, and besides me there is no God. Verse 12. Hearken unto me, O Jacob, and Israel, my called. I am He, I am the first, I also am the last. So there we have three verses that talks about someone being the first and the last. Now let's go to Revelation chapters 1, verse 1. The revelation of Yeshua, which God gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. Verse 11, saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. And what thou seest, write in a book, and send it unto the 7 churches which are in Asia. Verse 17, and when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead, and he laid his right hand upon me, saying unto me, Fear not, I am the first and the last. I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive for evermore, and have the keys of hell and of death. And Revelation 2 verse 8, and unto the angel of God, and unto the angel of the church of Smyrna, write these things, saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. Verse 13, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. So, this person was dead and came back alive. Refers to themselves as the first and the last. As God did, refer to himself as the first and the last. So if you put all these bits of information together, you see it was God himself who sacrificed him, or came in as a human, manifested, as John says, into a human body, or part of him, his spirit, to come into human flesh, who we call the Messiah, and he himself sacrificed to redeem us back onto himself, because there was no other sacrifice worthy. There was no lambs, nothing was good enough or perfect enough to do the job. So it was God who loved you so much that he went through all this trouble to sacrifice himself to redeem us back to himself. And that is the mystery of which Paul speaks. Isaiah chapter 41 verse 14. Fear not, thou worm Jacob, and ye men of Israel. I will help thee, saith Yahweh, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. Moving on to chapter 42, Yahweh's chosen servant. Reading from verse 1. Behold, my servant, whom I uphold, mine elect, in whom my soul delighteth. I put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. So I pause here to let you know a servant carries out the will and instructions of the master, their master. They do not change them. The word Gentiles means heathen, the ungodly, or the unholy. So the God's servant will carry out judgment to the unholy. Isaiah 42 verse 2. He shall not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. Abused reed shall he not break, and the smoking flax shall he not quench. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. He shall not fail nor be discouraged, till he have set judgment in the earth, and the isles shall wait for his law. My comment: judgment requires laws that are transgressed. You do not judge something that has got a right and a wrong. Continue from verse 6, 42 verse 6. I, Yahweh, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light to the Gentiles, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. I am Yahweh, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. Let's match these to some of the New Testament verses. Luke chapter 2 verse 32. A light to lighten the Gentiles, and the glory of thy people Israel. Gentiles are in darkness, and in need of the light. Proverbs 6:23. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is a light, and reproof of instructions are the way of life. Acts chapter 26 verse 18. To open their eyes, and to turn them from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan unto God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins, and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. You see what faith has been? In him, that rather than in animal sacrifices. See also Acts chapters 13 verse 47, Luke chapters 4 verse 18, 2 Timothy chapters 2 verse 26, and Hebrews chapters 2 verse 4. So Yeshua did not come to take away the light, the commandments of God, but to have faith for the forgiveness of your sins through him rather than the animal sacrifices, as for example in Leviticus 16. That is it. Chapters 42 verse 18. Hear ye, deaf, and look ye, blind, that you may see. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as Yahweh's servant? Seeing many things, but thou observest not. Opening the ears, but he heareth not. Yahweh is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honourable. So again, that's what the Messiah came to do, to magnify the law, make you see it, and what you have to do, how to live it, not through traditions of men, and make it an honourable way to live, not a way that is frowned upon. That is what Yeshua did. That is the meaning of fulfill. It doesn't mean to cancel or change. Lastly, Isaiah chapter 42 verse 24 and 25. Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers. Did not the Yahweh, he against whom we have sinned? For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law. Therefore he hath poured upon him the fury of his anger, and the strength of battle, and it hath set him on fire round about, yet he knew not, and it burnt him, yet he laid it not to heart. So whether you are an individual or a nation as Israel or a Gentile nation, if you do not heed to God's teachings and return to his commandments, and i.e. through the teachings of his Messiah and his prophets, then that is how God deals with sinners. Shalom until tomorrow, God willing.